Hi, welcome to Real Estate in Acción. I'm Malu Lopez, your realtor here in New Jersey, and today we have a very cool episode talking about title and title insurance. I have Danielle Esposito from Evident Title. She's the vice president of operation, and they are my preferred title company. I use them for my own deals and for the deals with my buyers. So we're going to go over all the details regarding title and title insurance. Welcome, Danielle, to our podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here today.
So tell us a little bit about Evident Title.
So Evident Title has been in business for 20 years. We are actually celebrating our 20th anniversary this year with a lot of fun, exciting things that we'll be doing and throughout the year and events and things like that. So I personally have been with Evident Title 16 years. I know I don't look old enough, but I have. My title journey started, it's funny, one thing about title, no one ever sits in high school and they're like, oh, I think I want to work for a title company when I get older. Mm-hmm. You kind of just fall into it. I fell into it when I was in high school. There was a little sign outside the guidance office and they needed a girl to scan binders out. And that's where I started. So I personally have started from absolute entry level to I've been doing this 20 years total as well, just not with Evident. So I've learned from the ground up. I've learned from some of the best, and that's kind of how my title journey started.
You do know it all, because even with transactions that I'm dealing with, that sometimes it can be a little complicated. I know that this is the girl that I have to call, like if something's not going the right way. Title, it's really underlooked when it comes to the buying process, but it's really one of the most important things in buying a house. Getting a clean title, is one of the most important things you're going to get when you purchase a house. So what is title?
So title itself is how the buyers are going to take ownership of the property. The title is, how am I going to own this home? Is it a husband and wife? Is it just a couple that's first dating and they want to buy a property together? So the title is how you individually will own your property and how your name is going to be listed on the deed. And the deed is what gets recorded in the county. The deed is how you own your property. And that's the official stamp of how you own your home.
And it also includes like the legal, depending on how you buy the property, is what legal rights you have to the property, right?
Yes. So there are two different ways. If you're not husband and wife and you're just two individuals buying title together, you can buy title with joint tenants and rights of survivorship, or tenants in common. When you take joint tenants, basically, say you and I buy a home together and God forbid something happens to you. We bought it joint tenants, so any interest that you would have had directly goes to me as the remaining owner of the property. Now, if we did tenants in common, just you have a family, your interest, you want to go to your family. So God forbid something happens to you, your 50% interest would go to your estate, and however your estate is to be distributed, and my 50% would remain mine. Now, your estate I could buy your estate out and then they would have the money. Or, if we continue to own the property that way, your estate would own half and I would own the other half. So those are two big ways. And it's very important that the attorney in the process explains that to their client.
Absolutely.
Because you and I, if we didn't know anything about real estate, we wouldn't know. And it's also very important to have a title company. You wouldn't believe how many deeds we get with no vesting. And if it is not discussed, it can be a legal mess that nobody's going to want to deal with. So it's very important that a client will discuss with their attorney how they want to hold title.
Absolutely. Even when I only understood title once I got into real estate, because we purchased properties before and I had no idea, number one, how important title was. And number two, that I was able to select my title company.
A lot of people don't know
that. They don't know that you can not necessarily shop around, because your pricing is almost the same with all
title companies. It has a state regulated price for the title costs. It is based strictly off of your purchase price and your loan amount. So when you're shopping out title companies, everything is going to be within a couple dollars of one another on how they do it. What's going to be really, really, really important is that you use a good title company, a reputable title company. You also want to make sure that you use a title company that is willing to work as a team. Because ultimately, when you're doing this real estate transaction, it's a big game of telephone. Starts with the realtor, then it goes to the attorneys, then it goes to the title company, the lender gets involved. And there are so many cooks in the kitchen that you want to make sure people that don't know title, we are the little elves in the back getting all of the information to make sure that a client gets to the closing table.
That the gift is delivered at the end
exactly.
properly.
And, we always make the joke that, the closing is the realtor's baby. You took this borrower to endless houses, wrote endless offers, and once it finally gets accepted, you want to make sure that that deal is in the hands of a company that the ultimate goal is to get the client to the closing as stress-free as possible, because everybody knows when you're buying a house and you're moving and your life is in boxes, it's super stressful to begin with. So you want to make sure that everybody is working on the same team to the same common goal.
Absolutely. Even as realtors, we are often asked by the buyer, like, can you do recommendations when it comes to lender, inspector, title, attorney? This is one thing you have to do as a realtor. Not so much what is the title company doing for you as a realtor, but what are they doing for your clients? Because they're going to have a relationship moving forward after you guys close. If there's anything that comes up, you want to make sure it's a company that they can, like, so many clients of mine, they're like, I called Danielle, I got this letter, because there's so many scams right now going on.
There are a lot of scams.
So it's very important to have someone that they can call and have a direct line of communication.
Right.
Let's talk about title insurance. What is title insurance?
So title insurance, you can think of as the background check to your property. You're about to make what is probably going to be the biggest purchase of your life. You want to make sure that there are no hidden secrets that are going to pop up and bite you later on.
Yeah.
So let's think of that as the background check of your
like someone you're dating.
Exactly. If you come over and you're like, I met this guy, what am I going to do? I am going to find out if there's any baggage, anything that's going to pop up and hurt you in any way. So that is essentially, it is the background check of your property.
To make sure there's nothing funny going on with the property.
Exactly. Nothing would be more awkward than to be at your housewarming party and have some stranger knock on the door and say, I never signed away my vested interest in this property, so you don't actually own the property. You don't want to explain that to your family. That's not something.
And things do happen. There's scams. There's errors that happen with deeds. There's so
counties can misindex something.
Yes.
Like everything can happen.
So many things that can happen that even if the title did a search, that they didn't come up at that time. But after closing, things could happen. Why not spend? It's not that much extra when you're closing to just ensure that, hey, if something comes up, I can call my title company and they're going to take care of it because I insure my title.
Yes. And you wouldn't believe, like, we had a deal once where there was a divorce situation. A quitclaim deed was done over to the wife. And when she went to go sell, guess what? Ex-husband had a judgment that popped up that became her responsibility. And if you didn't have a title company that did their due diligence and actually ran the name of the prior owner who came off, that buyer would have had that judgment on that property that would have been ahead of their new mortgage, ahead of everything else. And that could have been a
disaster,
entire disaster. So it is really important to, one word I will use throughout this entire conversation is to use a true professional.
Yes.
Use a professional that has been around for 20 years, will be around for 20 years. You don't want to use these pop-up title companies that...
Or just to get a cake.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I'm serious. Like, if you Google these companies, you will see, like, litigations, horror stories that happen, and that will ruin the whole buying process. That you're so happy, you got your first home or second home, whatever it is, and then you get a letter of, you know, we found this out, this hidden skeleton in the closet. And if you don't have title insurance, you're on your own. You're going to have to fight it.
You're a realtor. You know right now how many offers you're writing for your clients and the stress and anxiety that they're going through just to get their offer accepted. Yeah. So you want to know that once that actually is sealed and we're moving forward, that they're in the hands of a title company that has the same goal of you to close that file. not to make it difficult for everybody involved the entire time.
Even when I submit offers, I put obviously the pre-approval letter, which also who you're working with matters as lending. But once they see that I'm working with Evident, they already know, okay, this is going to be a smooth transaction when it comes to title. Even for closings, some title companies only work 9 to 4, and they would not accommodate a closing after that. Or like sometimes we have to close in a rush because rates are about to expire. I've had situations where I'm like, Danielle, I need to close at 7 o'clock because they get out of work at 5. That's the only time they can. You're like, you got it. We'll close at 7 o'clock. So having that team that is willing to do anything that needs to be done to get to that closing table,
And as the title company, like I said, all of the costs are the same. So customer service is the only thing that sets our company apart from the other. And if that's what we have to do, a 7 p.m. closing is a 7 p.m. closing. Like if it has to close on a weekend, we will do whatever we can within reason to make sure that every buyer gets to the closing table as stress-free as possible. And that's the evident difference.
Yes. Let's talk about your new app, the VIP app that you guys offer to all the buyers that are in the process of buying a property. I love this app because I'm always so scared that an email is going to get like intercepted and they're going to send them wiring instructions to send it to somewhere else. So this app, I love it. Tell us about it.
There is no denying that title companies and buyers of homes are the top tier of scams.
Yeah.
They have, with AI now, they literally just have people looking through emails, see the word buy, see the word contract, see the word deposit, and they are a target. They're a direct target for these scam artists. It would be great if they would just get jobs and do something useful for the community. Instead, they're trying to take innocent home buyers' money. And I do this every day. You do this every day. Maybe people buy houses 2, 3, 5 times in a lifetime. So this is all new to them, and they're just excited. They're about to buy something. They want to give their money. They want to own their house.
They want to secure the property.
They're listening to everything.
They're willing to wire that anywhere. And we've had situations like that my buyer would say, hey, they call me and they said I have to wire here, but it's not the same as the instructions. It's not just on the gram. These things do happen even as realtors. I always check the emails because even if they change one letter, the day to day, you don't notice, and you copy and paste it and send it to the buyer and done.
So we've been working with VIP, and it is a secure portal with direct communication between the buyer, their attorney. We're going to work on getting the realtor on there, but basically everything happens within the app. So there's no way that an email can get intercepted because everything's happening within the hard-coded app. And this is a way that we'll be able to communicate and everyone will be on the same page. And it's also pretty cool because the new home buyer is going to get a couple perks with it. When you use Evident Title, the app is yours for free. It comes with our service because we want to make sure that our buyers are as protected as possible because that's our job as an insurance company. Yeah. We don't want liabilities on any of our buyers. So that is going to be offered when you use Evident Title. And there's also some perks there. You can get some Lowe's coupons and coupons for ADP, but also ultimately all of your information for your home purchase is going to be in one spot.
All the documents get uploaded there. You don't have to be calling your realtor, your lender, like, I didn't get this. How do I get a copy of that? Everything's within the app. All the documents you signed at closing, they get uploaded there. Anytime you need, you access the app, you look for your deed, your note, your mortgage, everything's there, and you can send it to whoever you have to send it. You don't have to dig through emails or paperwork.
While the lenders haven't caught up just yet to be paperless, we want to make sure that the buyers are paperless and everybody does everything from their phone nowadays. So it's easy that the home buying process is all going to happen within your hand, within an app. And It'll be good for them to have everything stored in one place, not, is it in this folder on my computer? Is it in my email? Is it here? Is it there?
Because it's like a file cabinet, a digital file cabinet.
Yes,
for your house.
For all of your house needs. And the other cool thing about the app is it's going to let you know when there are things that you have to do to the property.
List.
Yes, it'll have like an internal to-do list. It'll let you know when things happen. So it's definitely a benefit to a home buyer, especially someone like me. When I bought my home, I didn't know like you had to replace certain things, or if a hot water heater goes, what's the time limit on things like that. So we're trying to educate and help buyers so that this process is not a nightmare for them.
Exactly. I love that app because it has your document, it has coupons, and you have direct access and communication. If you get a letter, a weird letter, you can go into the app, look at the phone number, say, hey, like, I got this. Is this a real thing or not?
Right.
Danielle, I have a question for you because this happened to me when I bought my first home. We bought it, we were under contract. We were actually like ready to close. And then there was a lien in the property, and we ended up having to wait about 2 months till the seller resolved that lien. So when does your job start?
So when we get into the relay race is usually as soon as they are out of attorney review, the inspection is done, and any negotiating that has to happen due to issues, that's normally when we advise people to order title. For our turnaround time, if somebody orders title, we like to get their binder back to them within 3 to 5 business days.
Okay.
And within those 3 to 5 business days, we're going to know if there's any bombs that show up in that file, like a lien or something like that. You want to make sure evident title, we send an email to all parties when the binder is complete, and we bullet point any potential issue. So
any red flags?
Any red flags, yes. And we usually like people to actually acknowledge them,
right.
And you don't want to just ignore them and, give the guy another couple chances.
Yeah, exactly.
But it'll bring the red flag up, and then that's immediately when the seller's attorney should start working on that, and you want to make sure that they get it cleaned up. There's all different types of liens. Everything should be able to be cleared up relatively quickly. Now, you could have had a seller that wasn't willing to pay a judgment or wasn't willing to do what needed to be done to clear it. And unfortunately, that can happen. But in title, we like to say most issues that pop up, we can cover within 2 weeks, which is why we tell our paralegals every file that you have, and we work off of closing dates, make sure 2 weeks ahead of time, you're taking a look at this and you're getting all of the information. So once title is ordered, we basically get the order. We order all of the searches. We have one of our readers prepare the title binder. It then goes out to all of the parties that need it. So whether there's a lender, both the attorneys, we like to keep our realtors informed because, again, this is their baby. This is their client. This is their buyer. We like to make sure that they also are aware of what's going on
happening.
If there is a red flag. And like yourself, there are other realtors as well that will actually get involved in the process and help because they want their buyer in their home. So like I've seen some of the things that you have done, whether it was, you definitely go above and beyond.
Yes, I mean, that's another podcast. We're not going to get into details, but I had to pray with the seller for these red flags to be resolved. What are common red flags that show up in title?
Well, I mentioned before sellers that have judgments that they didn't actually even know about. People, if they don't pay attention, it's hard to believe, but there are people that don't pay attention to their bills. And if your water was being billed to you separately and you just never paid a water bill because I thought it was part of my mortgage, you have a water lien on your property. There are so many, no two towns are the same, no two mortgage companies are the same. Everyone's different. So you have to actually pay attention. And it's surprising, how many people just don't pay attention and things.
Or, what happened with our transaction, the seller had co-signed for a car loan for someone in her church, like years prior. And I guess whoever took it out didn't pay for it. And when she tried to sell her house, this lien came up.
No good deed goes unpunished.
Don't co-sign. Like if you're trying to buy, don't co-sign for anyone. If you have a property, don't co-sign for anyone because the first thing they're going to go after is
your asset.
Is your house. This is the most common question that I get with buyers. How much is title? And it's not a ABC answer. It depends on a lot of things.
There's no direct formula for it. But the best way I could tell you is, as a realtor, you should download the Evident Title app. And on that app, there's a calculator that is so easy to use. You can play around with purchase price, you can play around with loan amounts, and it will immediately not only give you the estimate of your title costs, you can email it to yourself. You can also find out if you're a seller and you want to know what the realty transfer fee is going to cost you if you sell your property.
Absolutely.
Or if there's mansion tax. All of that is right there. It's so easy to use, and it's free to download.
I use it all the time because the most common question I get with my buyers are, how much are going to be my monthly payments? What's my closing cost? And how much is title? And it depends.
The easy answer is it's based off of your loan amount and your purchase price. So to get that answer, a direct number, it's a couple clicks away on a cell phone.
And you must get title insurance. There's certain things when you're buying a home that you don't want to save on. In this, like home inspections, a big one. Don't try to save money on that.
You're making the biggest investment of your life. It's very important. You don't want to be trying to cut here that can bite you in the butt down the road.
Big time.
Same thing with survey. A lot of people, they say that surveys are optional. Personally, if I'm buying a home, I want to know what the metes and bounds of my property is. I want to make sure that the shed that's in my backyard is on my property and that there's not going to be a neighbor coming in here and saying, you have your shed on my lawn and you need to move it or you need to get rid of it.
Or their fence. Like this comes up a lot when after closing that they didn't get it because they wanted to save in $700, $800. Like, why? Get your survey because these are things you need to find out before closing because you can address them. After closing,
another common thing is say you buy a property and you don't want to get a survey, but down the road you have intentions of putting in a pool.
Yeah.
What if you think that you own the entire lot that goes all the way back to the neighbor's yard, and when it's time to put that pool in, you find out half of that property isn't yours. Guess what? Your pool's gone. And because you didn't spend $800 then, your whole dream of your awesome backyard and pool parties is gone because you didn't want to spend that money then. So it's very important that at the time you are buying your house, you also get a survey because all of this is about insurance. All of this is about protecting the buyer. And as a buyer, you want to make sure that you have a title company that's going to tell you the right things to do to protect you because ultimately we're all working for the buyer. They're the boss.
Another thing I get asked, once you pay for title insurance, it's not something you pay every year.
Yeah.
It's a one-time fee.
Title insurance is very different than health insurance, car insurance. All of that you're going to continuously pay in case something happens. Title insurance is one time when you purchase your property and it insures you and it makes sure that there's nothing that's going to pop up from the past. And if you get the enhanced policy, it protects you from any fraud in the future as well.
Yeah.
So it's really, really, really important that you selfishly get title insurance because it is for you.
And it covers also your heirs. If someone dies, title insurance will cover that?
Yeah, it stays with the property until there's a new owner. And then that's when the process starts again. Now, if you go and buy another home, you can't take your owner's policy from this house and bring it to the next house.
Or you refinance, you got to run title again.
Absolutely, right? Yeah, because that lender is going to want to make sure that they are in first lien position.
Absolutely. Last question. Once binder is ready, what happens next to get the buyer to the closing table?
Once the binder is out to all of the parties involved, it is in the hands of our paralegals. And our paralegals will reach out to the realtors to get their commission statements. They'll reach out to the town, make sure that the final water is ordered. They're going to be in direct contact with the lender, going back and forth, balancing with the CD to make sure that everything that needs to be on there is on there. They're going to get the attorney fees. If there's any payoffs from the seller, they work with the seller's attorney to make sure that they get everything that needs to go on.
You guys balance the sheet.
Yes, we go back and forth with the lender until everything matches on both ends. We send it to both attorneys. We get their approval prior to the buyer being at the closing table and making sure that every I is dotted, every T is crossed, because it's important that that's our job, making sure anyone who's supposed to be paid or anyone who is owed something on this property, before it changes hands, we have to make sure that that's paid. So we will balance the CD. We will send the seller's CD out. And that process can, you're in the hands of the title company, and you want to make sure that they're doing their due diligence and they're not missing a final water escrow, because you don't want to find out that the buyer of your home calls you, they got their first water bill, and there's a $500 balance from the seller because the title company didn't make sure that was paid at closing. Those are things that could happen. So you want to make sure.
That's happened to one of my clients that selected not evident title. And they call me, they're like, oh, now we have to go back to the attorneys and try to get the money from the seller. But it's difficult. It's difficult to get money after closing.
Yes. And that's one of the things that we train our closers. All of our closers are just closing for evident title. They're not going to show up one day for evident title and one day for a title company that shall not be named.
Yeah.
They're only going to be the face of evident, because our closer is our brand. That closing table show is the final taste this buyer is going to have in their mouth. So we want to make sure it is nothing less than perfect, because you want them leaving saying, oh my God, it was such a smooth closing. It went so quick. Our closer was great. Not, this was a nightmare. They asked for my blood. I got to the closing table. They didn't know what they were doing.
Oh, they didn't explain
anything to me. So it's so important that you are, again, I'm going to use the word professional, true professionals that want to work for you and your client, because you want to make sure that they're happy when they leave there. They're going into their dream home. You don't want them leaving saying, that was a nightmare. I never want to buy another house again. Because you want them to come back. You want them to tell your friends. You want to make sure that the final show is the best it can be.
And there's so many fires that get put out even without the buyer knowing. We make it as smooth as possible for them. If there's things that they need to know because, you can't get to the closing table for whatever reason, they will explain everything. But they're my preferred title company, my lender's title company too, because that's how I met you, and I never went back. Thank you for joining us on this amazing podcast. Thank you to Evident Title that sponsors today's podcast. And
thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And let's get to more closings.
See you at the closing table.